thanks to each one of you, Sudhindra, Sirisha, and Chaitanya, for accepting my invite, and thanks for coming on to this podcast. Happy Women's Day to each one of you. As the old adage goes, ladies first, will not go by that. We'll start with Sudhindra. But before we start the actual podcast, or before we start this Women's Day panel discussion, I would like each one of you to introduce yourself shortly. I'm Sree Lata Shankar. Like Sunil introduced me, I come with 24 years of experience in HR and L&D, learning and development. I've conducted soft skill workshops. I'm in HR. I've also been teaching HR in management colleges. I conduct soft skill workshops for management, engineering, and corporate companies. I'm a content writer. I write poetry, and I can go on. So I will stop here. Sudhindra, Sirisha, and Chaitanya, request you to introduce yourselves, please. Let's start with Sudhindra. Sudhindra, please answer my question. What, on the occasion of Women's Day, as we empower women to be leaders, what are we doing to educate and inform the men in our lives to avoid gender-based violence?
Namaste, first of all, to all my panelists and all the viewers. Greetings on the occasion of International Women's Day. Greetings also on the occasion of Mahashivratri. It's an extremely auspicious day for us to be doing this session. The education of the men, if it has to happen, it has to start from the house. It has to start from the home. The parents, the siblings, I'm assuming the grandparents, the entire ecosystem that was there in a traditional Indian home. I think that is where the character is groomed. That is where the character is crafted for every individual, more so for the boys. The kind of upbringing that an individual gets at home, the kind of interaction that he has with his friends at school, the impact that the teachers have on him in a school, I think these are the various aspects which are critical, which are important in enabling a boy, an individual, to understand his relationship with people of the opposite gender. The interaction with the siblings at home, the kind of examples, the kind of milieu that unfolds at home, I think these are very critical in terms of shaping the kind of character that the individual is going to become in future. History is, of course, replete with plenty of examples. We have Shivaji, Chhatrapati Shivaji, whose mother, Jijabai, was the most significant impact on his life. All through his life, we will see that his achievements were always grounded in humility. His spectacular achievements were always dotted with acts of magnanimity, with acts of simplicity and humility. He was somebody who was extremely honorable even in defeat. Whether he was in defeat or in victory, he was somebody who always stood out with honor. He was somebody who had that strength of character in him. And this is something which he owed to the tutelage that he had got from his mother. Closer in the 19th and 20th centuries, we have had the example of Swatantraveer Savarkar, on whom also his mother and his sister-in-law were such great influences. The introduction to concepts such as nationalism, devotion to one's motherland, our culture and traditions, and an exposure to the revolutionaries, which kind of framed the entire life sketch of Veer Savarkar, were all contributed to him. Acharya Madhva, a saint philosopher from Udupi in Karnataka, who founded the concept of Dvaita, he quotes from our epics, the Ramayana, Mahabharata, and Bhagavata, and he says that our epics are full of instances where the complementary nature of man and woman are so clearly delineated. He lists out, he narrates small nuggets from the Mahabharata, the conversations between Kunti and Bhima, or the conversation between Satyabhama, Rukmini, and Draupadi during the period of exile, where the sketch, where the entire role of a woman in the household is so beautifully sketched. And there is a lesson to be learned for every single male from reading from those books, reading from those epics. The second thing that I think the family plays a major role is inculcating a sense of respect in the individuals. I think no relationship can ever be successful unless there is that innate sense of respect and regard for the opposite individual, irrespective of the gender. So respect for oneself, respect for the opposite person, for their views, for their thinking, for their personality, for their traits. This is imperative, and this is also something which will have to be groomed at the house. So I think these are two critical aspects that the family, the milieu in which an individual, a boy, grows up, these have to be crafted at that level. And as I said, one word of caution, or I would defer to the wisdom of the women, is that there needs to be a subtle distinction drawn between flirting and chivalry. Very often that kind of gets missed out and even misunderstood. So I think so long as both the genders try to understand and assimilate the differences and learn to comprehend and live with them in a complementary manner, I think much of the issues tend to get sorted out.
Well said, Sudhindra. I couldn't agree more with you on this. Moving on to you, Chaitanya, as you are in HR as much as I am, and you being a leader and managing teams, how women's leadership and collective action can make a difference?
I'd like to speak first, Sree Lata, about collective action.
Sure.
It's the feeling of a shared goal and a real cause which can call for a strong action. And if it's priority of one person, it's no big deal, right? It has to become a shared priority to be able to gain that most needed attention. And when a woman stands at the forefront, either individually or along with men and other women, it definitely turns heads and people notice it. And thus the difference making could be possible. And there is so much that we can speak about, how women can really make a difference. And maybe as we go on and progress in the discussion, we could speak more about it, Sree Lata.
Sirisha, moving on to you. Starting from policies and policymakers should emphasize on the importance of accelerating gender equality and why women's leadership is as important as a time of overlapping crisis. What is your thoughts on that?
I would like to take a step back, Sri. Women represent half of the world's employment potential, I mean. So effectively developing this talent will increase organizations' competitive advantage. And one of the growing body of evidence was demonstrating a correlation between gender diversity at executive level and company performances. But still, women are not able to make up into the leadership level. So as we speak, we are just making up 11% into the leadership roles. So because of various reasons, motherhood, family responsibilities, health, or caregiving. But I feel women leadership is critical in policy making and overcoming crisis, as decades of studies we have heard from the psychologists on how women leaders help increase productivity, enhance collaboration, inspire dedication and fairness. And to encourage an equitable world, women leadership plays a very critical role. For some, I can quote like, achievement of, in terms of policies, right? Achievement of equal pay for the equal work or value you bring in. So that will be one aspect. And then prevention and elimination of the so-called violence and harassment at workplace and at home as well. I feel we can bring in some policies at government and at workplaces, creating a harmonious work-life balance for both women and men. I don't want to discriminate men here, because men equally needs to manage work and life, and equal representation of women in business and management strategies and roles. And of course, the more the women leadership grows, the more investment in future of work that works for women. In fact, the studies say that, I can quote some examples. Your story, if you've heard, right? So was started by Shraddha Sharma. So now she's leading a team of 100 plus people who offer content in 11 local languages. It's a very innovative idea when she started. And another than Kiran Majumdar Shah is one of the most revered female entrepreneurs in India. She is a billionaire, one of the billionaires in India, who is hailed as the founder and chairman of Bangalore-based biotechnology company, Biocon. So on and so forth. I just wanted to quote some of those examples from India. Akanshu is founder of Refund Me. It's again some of the innovative ideas. So I would say the more the women grow into this leadership roles, I can see some creativity and innovation coming up, and they can make good candidates for the startups as well.
Absolutely. I agree with what each one of you said, especially what Sudhindra mentioned. He went back to history and spoke about the women leaders across and how they shaped our independence, how we got. Independence is not because of Nehru and Gandhi, as we have taught in our schools. Unfortunately, a lot of women leaders have helped get us our independence. Apart from that, we have our, like you mentioned, Kiran Mazumdar, Kalpana Chawla, Sunita Williams, and so on and so forth. And we have our own Kamala Harris as the Vice President of US. Our own, like I said, it is so endearing that we women are doing well. And yesterday, when I was getting an award, one of the chief guests also mentioned that about 5 years back, or even 3 years back, it was 921 girls to 1,000 men. Today, it is 1,021 girls to 1,000 boys. So it is very, very heartening, very, very welcoming. But yes, there are still some pockets of women deprivation, and we need to cross that.
One point when you were asking Sudhindra about how do we improvise on education on the diversity and inclusivity perspective, why don't we even, I was just thinking, why don't we include a topic or a one day in a month kind of classes of diversity and inclusivity in the schools itself, right? So that
school curriculum,
nurture not only from home as parents, we should inculcate these thoughts in our kids, but even the school, which plays a prominent role from the kids journey, right?
Yeah, apart from the school curriculum, I think it is like Sudhindra rightly pointed out, it starts from family.
Yes.
You and I and Chaitanya must have continuously heard. I thankfully don't have brothers, and my parents have given us equally importance. But I've heard a lot of my friends who had brothers in their families saying the brother can come home till 7:38 or 8:39, but the girls cannot step out beyond 6:30. So I think, like Sudhindra rightly mentioned, it starts from the family, and both girls and boys should be treated on a same footing. Coming back to you, Chaitanya, can you share examples of being a leader, the role of a successful collective actions or collaborations led by women that have had a significant impact on you and your career?
Particularly women-led interventions is what you're saying. I actually can think of some wonderful movements globally, right? So we all know about this Chipko movement. So what happened when some of the men in the village were out and the contractors' men were here to cut so many trees? It's the women who've led the entire movement, which turned heads again, to the extent that the government set up a formal committee with government officials, pramukhs and Communist Party and whatnot. So that's become a movement that the world speaks about today when it comes to the environment-related things. Then you also have Greta Thunberg, the Swedish environmental activist.
No, let's not get to Greta Thunberg, because I have a lot of opinions about her. So let's not go there. Yeah.
I mean, we could speak about Malala Yousafzai. We could speak about the Iran incident, right? The movement where thousands of women took the audacious step to shed their hijabs altogether. These are big deal where women had to come together and could really make big impacts. But then again, I'm going back to the social aspects, right? So we say the United States of America, the most developed, so-called the most developed nation. When did they give the voting rights to women? After the 20th constitutional amendment, right? That was just about a century ago. Too late. And who will take responsibilities for the atrocities on women by the ISIS men who were used as sexual slaves, or so there are a lot of these basics that the world is still struggling with. Back home in India, I'm extremely grateful to the Prime Minister for some actions taken in getting women to the forefront, the number of women who are there in the ministry, getting us a woman president. including inducting of women fighter pilots into the mainstream. This happened just 2 years ago, 2022, right? So net net, I think the idea is not to fight saying that we want our space. I think it's for all of us to collectively create that environment so that women are really noticed and she gets the fair place, and that thereby creates the right impact that the world needs.
Sudhindra, moving on to you, uh, what is the importance of empowering women leaders? And do you want to add to what Chaitanya mentioned of women leaders making work better?
Yeah, absolutely. And I think there's perhaps no better example than this regime itself, as Chaitanya pointed out. It's given us a woman president. We have had women heading the three most critical portfolios in the government. We have had women finance ministers. We have had women's defense and external affairs ministers. So if this is not the leveling or the true example of Sabka Saath and Sabka Vikas, I think we've really come to a level where it's not even a question of fighting for space any longer. And remember, let's also not forget the fact that this is a regime which also got in the women's reservation bill. It is now a law. And in the fullness of time, subject to the other changes that have to happen, the women's reservation bill is a reality, what had just been a matter of conjecture for several decades prior to that. So I think
including the triple talaq and including UCC.
Absolutely. So this is a regime, this is a government which is moving in all the right directions, and it walks the talk. It is not just empty rhetoric. Sabka Saath, Sabka Vikas is reflected in the legislative business of the parliament and what is happening on the ground. When there is focus on Beti Padhao, Beti Bachao, that is something which is actually happening, which is getting reflected. Chaitanya just rattled out some figures, whether it's in the Air Force, whether it's in various other segments. You have more and more women who are collaborating, participating, and actually leading from the front. Coming to the point of empowering women, I think it's a no-brainer now. It's absolutely imperative that this has to happen. And I'm a beneficiary of so many wonderful women being instrumental in molding me to become what I have eventually become. My grandmother, who lived from a different era, from a different century, even about 70 years ago, she was a member of the British Library, and she used to borrow books, traveling some 40-50 kilometers from the hinterlands of Tamil Nadu to Madras to borrow books. And she was somebody who was a single most important factor in molding a large part of my career. My own mother was a banker even about 50 years ago. So she had a widowed mother. She underwent a harrowed childhood, and to be able to emerge from there and bring up a family as a working, as a wife, as a working mother, and grappling with so many things, it's something fantastic. It's something fabulous, which millions of mothers do in India day in and day out. So if these people are not going to be empowered, I think empowerment will not have a meaning as a word itself. Why
Absolutely.
Why should women be empowered? I think the most important reason is for the empathy that they bring to the table. The level of emotional equanimity, the level of emotional strength that women have is something which can never be matched by all the physical strength of women. Some of my finest friends, my well-wishers, my mentors have always been women across the spectrum. So a huge source of strength is what men derive from women, be it their mothers, be it their sisters, be it their spouses. So there's a tremendous amount of strength that is derived from men, derived by men from women, and it's absolutely imperative that women should be empowered. Just one final word, also again, I just want to balance it. Empowerment of women should not be at the cost of compromising on merit. Enthronement of meritocracy is something which should never be compromised, and subject to this caveat, empowerment of women should be a sine qua non as we go ahead.
Totally with you, Dr. Sudhindra, because we do not want to take reservations or any others, benefits as an advantage. In fact, wanted to encourage folks in terms of empowerment and equally demonstrate the capabilities as much as we can.
Going back to Sudhindra, I've been your well-wisher and I'm so proud of what you have done. Every achievement of yours that you post on the Facebook, and before he posts on the social media, he sends it off to me, and I've been jumping around and saying congratulations to you. The salient points that you brought out and enlisted all the points is very, very enumerative and excellent. Sirisha, moving on to you again. As a tech leader, you have men who are reporting to you. So have you ever had instances where probably it's not come to you, but within the gossip circle saying, oh God, I have a lady boss?
Definitely, I did hear about, the meticulousness, or the people talk about the micromanagement the women leader does, which I myself will not agree, because they expect perfectness and transparency. Even if we make a financial discussion, it will be like fully transparent, no hidden charges. So these might be not going well with many communities, but I did hear. But definitely there is a lot of improvement in terms of how the work is being managed between both the worlds.
Yeah, in the corporate sector, it's much lesser, but
Yes.
you still have men saying, oh, I have a lady boss. Did you face any disparity in terms of salary or designation or promotions in your career? And if any, how did you manage to deal with it, both from the men's side and the women's side?
So I definitely take a pride in saying that I work for an organization which doesn't discriminate women in any category. In fact, it provides equally challenging aspects on work, growth, and salary for that matter. In fact, my organization drives some initiatives to encourage diversity and inclusivity. These help to promote women in long career leadership. And I can quote some examples, Sri. Salary was, in fact, just to directly answer your question, I didn't face that instance in my career. Come back to work. Even if you have taken a break, we welcome ladies to join back work after a break, and we encourage to take sabbatical than resigning from work, right? So, and we also give some kind of, importance, or have a conversation start. If there is a forum, we give equal importance for women to start the conversation. And many more initiatives to lead the inclusivity. So I didn't face that disparity because I've been working in one organization for longer duration. Maybe I was fortunate enough.
Yeah. Chaitanya, women leaders make work better. Adding to what Sudhindra mentioned, I could have this question for you. Women leaders make work better. What are your thoughts on that?
I think women leaders are very good when it comes to creating and rectifying certain processes. The way they have the ability to give a form and structure to an idea, and also correcting matters without losing her calm. I'm sure women can be. It's not to let. It's not anywhere to let that men are less or something, but the way they can focus on multiple things at a time, that's something that's commendable and worth a note. And I couldn't agree more with Sudhindra when he says empathy. Wonderful empathy is what you could find with women, and there are so many more that we can speak. It's a lot. And one of my mentors used to say, are men and women equal? And if this question was posed in a group, majority of them would say yes, especially the women would say yes, of course. And my mentor would say, you know what, while they are more or less equal, it's always 51-49. Women can never be equated to men. They are 51 and men can only be 49.
Right. Sudhindra, you very brilliantly spoke about the points of empathy and how women can connect with men more, or rather teams more. I would add, apart from empathy, they have this innate talent or inherently born with, that I can not just empathize, but I can also understand what you're going through, what you're facing, and how to give you a solution to that. may not be the ultimate solution, may not be, let's say my mother's unwell. I'm not just going to say, okay, take off, but I will also be helpful to say, I'll come and meet you in person. I may not be able to even spend 1 rupee, but that's not all. The fact that my boss is coming and meeting me or saying, take off, don't worry, I will take care of work, that itself says everything. Having said that, I've had horrible women bosses where my mother has been in ICU. And when I spoke to my reporting manager, I said, my mother's in ICU, I will have to take off for 2 days. And the first thing that she said is, is there any work pending, which is obnoxious. So I think all the women managers out there, all the men managers out there, please understand what Sudhindra and Chaitanya mentioned is not just empathy. Please be sensitive to your team members. Understand what they're going through. Yes, you will have a lot of young professionals who are just coming out of college who will say, my grandfather died, grandmother died 10 times. So I've turned around and asked them, how many sets of grandparents do you have? You only will have choose one set of grandmother and grandfather from your maternal side and paternal side. But these things you will have to understand or assess which is fake and which is genuine. And if it's a genuine case, do not say what is the work pending, but please be more sensitive. Coming back to you, Sudhindra, for gender equality, promoting data, action, and accountability are paramount. What are your thoughts?
It's quite important that we aggregate the data and ensure that there is accountability to percolate gender equality at the workplace. This helps fundamentally in understanding the fact that women collaborate much better. There are studies, there are researchers, across the board. The consulting firms across the globe have published reams and reams on this. That women, to take up from some of the earlier points, women understand situations, complex situations much better. Women can multitask much better with greater efficiency than men can, given their own responsibilities that they have at the home front or the way they have been groomed from childhood. So their ability to multitask is that much more. In terms of holding recording data or aggregating it and trying to understand or percolate it, as I said, to gender equality, I think this also enables making very informed policy decisions on very strategic matters, where the involvement of women typically tends to be a little low as we speak. It also helps in understanding or going for a root cause analysis when something goes wrong, when something isn't going as per plan and budgets are faltering. It certainly helps in understanding what's going wrong. So that relentless root cause analysis is something that women can help significantly with. I've also observed that women tend to be more accountable and more responsible. This is not just a generic statement, and I say this with a lot of responsibility, that women tend to be more accountable and responsible for any task that is given. So I think a sum total of all these findings and personal experiences that I've had would go a long way in determining the gender equality is a reality, and it can be buttressed even further once everybody around starts to understand them.
I will also add that when you spoke about women are good policy makers, I think what they do is not just make a policy of 1, 2, 3 steps. They take a collective understanding of the process, of the situation, and then make a policy which is more universal. So I think that is inherent talent again of women. Do you want to add, Sirisha and Chaitanya, do you want to add to what Sudhindra mentioned?
I think, Sree Lata, the farther that a woman could see a situation, I think, I'm not saying men are myopic, but women can consider multiple directions and far-fetched impact that some action or a policy may have. I think that's something really special about women.
Sirisha, moving on. Do you want to add one more point, Sirisha, or I can ask you next question?
Yeah, then we can go to next question. I think both of them have covered. So empathy and collaboration was my point. Yes.
Sure. How do organizations help advance more women into leadership? This is for you, Sirisha.
Sure, Sri. Actually, I would correlate with the software industry to start with, but it will be applicable across. So I would say maybe I'll just touch base on 5 points. One is, as I was earlier mentioning, invite women into conversations. First of all, if a conversation about women should be held by women, so that way organization can give a fair opportunity to promote their thoughts and provide equal opportunities as an organization, regardless of how equal you might think your workplace is. Women still face obstacles, so such as like unconscious bias, stereotyping, and pay inequalities. So furthermore, then count fewer opportunities to work. So that's where we have to go ahead and have organizations promote equal opportunities. Pay inequalities was one more thing I was talking about when I was talking about in policy thing, right? So if a corporate can address this disparities, nothing like that, and again give opportunities for women to embrace some non-linear career paths, for example, right? In fact, I wanted to share that culture of nurturing women leadership and drive some initiatives to promote that. And also, if you see, most women's career trajectories are interrupted due to various challenges, right? So to address this, for equal opportunities and parallel non-linear career paths within an organization should be encouraged for women. And as we quoted earlier, providing avenues to support work-life balance, where I personally don't believe there should be a line towards it, but women with familial responsibilities often find it challenging to work long hours. Maybe there can be some policies where look at the productivity part and the outcome, not the number of working hours, right? So
absolutely, you spoke very like a true HR person, though you're not an HR person. Sirisha, I agree with what you're saying, because being in HR, I've heard a lot of managers who say that,
correct.
Oh yeah, I don't want to give this lady responsibilities because she's not married today, but she'll get married tomorrow. And then subsequently she'll want to start a family. But the point is, maternity leave is entitled for a woman. And she is going to go on leave and come back and work. So why don't men understand that?
Yeah,
or why don't men understand the fact, while she may want to get married, or she will get married, and she probably will start a family, but she's also going to be an extremely productive and responsible team member of yours. So these, I think, men should open up their mindsets and accept the fact, as much as their mothers and their wives will want to do many things. And if they haven't done, they should understand that team members will want to do that.
Right. As an organization, right, Sri, to address this disparity, companies should create a culture that values work-life balance and provides women with necessary support. Like, for example, you can offer flexibility.
Crash in the office, crash in the office, yes, and so on and so forth. And men should also understand that these are all part of life.
Physiological.
In today's age, in advanced age of technology, I don't care whether my team member is working from home or from office, correct, or from Timbuktu, as long as productivity is good.
Work is done.
But yes, from an HR perspective, again, Chaitanya will agree with me that it is important to connect with employees. You cannot do it on the Zoom calls and all. The connect between each other on a personal front is much more.
Correct. And last one,
you should be flexible. I'm not saying allow them to work from home 365 days of the year, but allow them to work at least 3 times a week. They can come to office. Those kind of flexibility should be allowed.
Women also shouldn't take that as an advantage.
Absolutely.
So definitely it should be mutual. That's what I strongly always believe.
In fact, some organizations have come to the fact that saying, okay, you come in at 10 o'clock to work, you can go back at 3:34 or 4:30, go home and log in. That's fine. Because therein, what's happening is, she's beating the traffic. She doesn't have to get stuck in the traffic. She reaches home faster. And then, even if I have to log in at 9:30, it's still okay.
Yeah. As to the
Chaitanya, my last question to you is...
one last point I want to add, Sree.
Please.
As an organization, they should be providing to support this part, provide mentorship and training programs to enable women employees to climb up the ladder, right? So that is something where an organization can actually empower
leadership
us.
skill training has to be imparted.
Yes.
Absolutely, yes.
Yes.
Chaitanya, my question to you is, women leaders are catalysts for change. Can you give examples from your own career?
Sure, Sree Lata. So there was a time when one of my bosses told me, Chaitanya, can you slow down? It's putting a lot of pressure on others in the team.
What did he mean by slow down?
Slow down meaning don't do so many interventions at one point of time.
Right.
Don't complete projects like this and do too many things. So it's just putting pressure on rest of the team members. It was told to me. Can you imagine? And I know rest of those team members were primarily men. Again, no offense at all. And then there was a time when I worked in an organization which had about 50 people in the sourcing department, meaning their career progression, if they could look even 5 years ahead, they would think, oh, I want to become a recruiter. Recruiters would get their profiles from the sourcing team, right? So from that situation, there was a time when these sourcers had come to me as a group and said, you know what, Chaitanya, we never imagined that we could also think of being an HR business partner. We never thought that an HR person could add so much value to business. And you are our inspiration. We really want to think beyond the recruitment role, those kind of things. And way back, early stages of my career, it was possible to get a seat on the table when it comes to business discussions. And it was possible only because I could earn that credibility and speak the language of business, which in the past, it never happened that, I'm speaking about almost 20 years ago. HR professionals hardly had a seat on the table, right? And there are many more examples, Sree Lata, I can go on, like HR shared services project at Novartis across the country. So we had 8 legal entities. If you can imagine animal health, where the employees go to remote villages and imagine their kind of, HR systems and procedures, to the most advanced Alcon, where our employees would stand in a operation theater where an ophthalmologist is conducting a very complicated surgery. So imagine the HR processes and tools that have to be different for various categories. So my change management intervention across the country was a global benchmark, and I have mentored after that many countries to set up their shared services towards all these things. So good experience, I could say, good examples from my career. But yes, I have personally been successful in managing change and have seen really good women leaders managing change to the...
Wonderful, Chaitanya. I mean, you've done so much change management and brought in changes across country, which is applauding, very applauding. Moving on to you, Sudhindra, my last question to you will be, I'm saying the last question because of the paucity of time. Role of women leaders in shaping tomorrow's world. Your thoughts, please.
This is obviously going to be paramount. They are the ones who will shape the way of life, the way things are to come. If diversity, equity, and inclusion have to get a real meaning, have to get their, if they have to be not be just words in the lexicon, but flow on to the real world, I think women have to be in the forefront. They will have a very compelling role to play in the days and years ahead. And we've already been seeing there are examples galore that we have seen as to how women are leading from the forefront and how this is going to become that much more important. It is not merely from a viewpoint of ticking the boxes of being a diverse and equitable or an inclusive organization. It's also the fact that this will lead to greater social justice across the spectrum. This will lead to greater representation. This will also bring forth diverse perspectives. I think one thing that we tend to miss in the overall picture is that the diversity is not confined only to gender or ethnicity or nationality and so on. Thought diversity also is something which is so significant and so important. And women, by virtue of all the discussions that we have had over the last hour or so, I think it's fairly well established that the empathy, the sensitivity, and the ability to think out of the box, or the ability to think in very different ways that women can bring to the table. I think that diversity of thought that they bring to an organization, that is going to be a real game changer. It is that which is going to drive India, particularly from where we are and where we will eventually be. So if India has to metamorphose and transform itself into that Vishwaguru, I think the role of women and the empowerment that is happening right now, that is going to be the determining the design, the critical paradigm as we go ahead. Again, since we spoke about the regime and the government, just a simple example, Chaitanya spoke about women being catalysts. And very truly, in the scientific meaning of the word itself, let's look at the Bharatiya Janata Party itself. It's a party of governance now for the last 10 years. It's moved so much forward, and it has catapulted India into the community of nations. And we have a position of pride in the global arena today. Yet about 35 years ago, when the party was still a fledgling and was in its nascent stages, all that you and I knew of was Atal Bihari Vajpayee, who went on to become Prime Minister, or Lal Krishna Advani, who was very recently also conferred the Bharat Ratna. But we all tend to forget that there was a third and a very important pivotal fulcrum that was there for the party, and that person went by the name of Rajmata Vijayaraje Scindia, the Queen Mother from the erstwhile Scindia Pradesh in Madhya Pradesh. She was that unseen hand. She was that catalyst. She was that ethos that was binding the BJP through, even as it was evolving all across. And if today the party has come to this position of shepherding a government which is living the dreams of the common man, it owes to a very large extent to the dreams, to the contribution of Rajmata Vijayaraje Scindia. So let's not forget the fact that the contribution of women transcends across the board, even in politics. No matter in what aspect of life you take, you will find that their role is always there. They have a hand that rocks the cradle. They have a hand which wields the ladle. And all this is possible only because they have a heart which is so very noble. I doff my hat to all the women on this momentous occasion.
No, I will also add that apart from the cradle and the ladle, they also have a stick in the hand. If you have a son or a husband or a daughter misbehaving, they will also give you a whack.
Well, the ladle itself becomes a stick.
Yes, the ladle becomes a stick. Yes. Adding to your points, Sudhindra, I will also mention that all the women, all the young students, girl students, all the young professionals who are getting into the corporate jobs, the ladies and the women, please do not limit yourself. I repeat, please do not limit yourself. Do not say, I can't do it because I'm a girl. I can't do it because I'm a woman. Or these are my capabilities. Men are more stronger. Like Sudhindra mentioned, men are physically stronger, but women are more mentally and emotionally stronger. So I think apart from what each of these wonderful people, the both ladies and the gentlemen spoke about, is I would like to emphasize all the young girls and young women and grown-up women, please do not restrict yourself. Please don't limit yourself. Sky is the limit. Understand what your strengths are and chase your goals. Have time frame, chase your goals. You will be a Kalpana Chawla, you will be a Ananda Shankar, you will be a Tejdeep Kaur Menon if you wish to do it. Do not compare yourself with somebody and say, oh, they could do it, but I can't do it. You can do it as much as they can, but you need to push yourself. But you need to set your goals. But you need. Let me just finish. But you need to chase your goals. You need to push yourself. You need to motivate yourself. Chaitanya or Sirisha or Sree Lata or Sudhindra are not going to motivate you. You need to do it yourself.
Correct. a small piece of advice added to what I just stuck my mind. Lot of us come with a baggage, right? So we need to just unload it, restart, and there are times to let some thoughts go. It's okay to take help. I feel personally,
It's absolutely, you should take help, in fact.
And it's okay to say no sometimes, or it's okay to say, I don't understand, can you repeat?
Absolutely.
Nothing to be offensive about it. And there is no, even if people form perceptions that she's not able to understand, it's fine as long as you do your work perfectly. I think we should treat these vulnerabilities as strengths but not weaknesses. That's what I wanted to add.
Absolutely, because like, for example, I don't understand technology. You're a tech person. I don't understand technology. Of course, yes, today we're living in a so-called very advanced technology world. But if you ask me to sit and code or sit and decipher the phone that we use every day, I don't think I can. I use a smartphone, but I'm using 10% of it. So, but that's not my area. So you don't have to be a master of all. Be good at a couple of things. That's fair enough. My last question to you, Sirisha, is what are the outcomes of creating inclusive environments?
Sure, it's a good closing question. So, an inclusive workplace, Sree, it's very vital. The culture, in fact, we build in is very vital for both ethical and strategical business outcomes. That is what which matters end of the day for the organization. So, key strategies for inclusivity involve ensuring all employees feel valued and heard, right? Encouraging diversity and inclusion means you're creating a roadmap for innovation and productivity. So people feel more engaged and included. You can really see some creativity and productivity and feeling engaged, feeling part of being increased. Right? The real world examples provide a blueprint for like sustainable and inclusive company culture. What in a nutshell I would say is these environments will form a pillar for attract and retain a diverse workforce. And our summary is benefits of an inclusive workplace include improved employee engagement, loyalty, and business outcomes. I can not more than this. I'll watch for it.
All right.
Directly proportionate to what positive outcomes.
Sure. Thank you so much. Your last thoughts. We'll start with Sudhindra again breaking that paradigm of saying ladies first. We'll start with you, Sudhindra. Your last thoughts on this Women's Day and this topic.
I think it is, as I said, I just want to reiterate the fact that men and women need to consider each other as being complementary, as allies, and as being wheels in this chariot of life. I think it's not about equality. It's not about superiority, inferiority, or whatever. It is about being in it together. There is no such thing as independence. Life is all about interdependence. So that is all we will have to learn, assimilate, and live our lives with.
Thank you so much. So, Sirisha, you?
See, I would say just go with this mantra, na? Like think that why only men? Think yourself as a soul maker of the bread and butter at home and feel empowered. And that's how I think you can, every woman, advice to all the women hearing us and in general, think that's how you can progress in your career's job. And as I earlier said, use technology is at your hands, right? It's like you have a lot of learning aids to upskill yourself, and then there is a lot of organization help also you can bring in. So definitely utilize it and put yourself up to the ladder. That's what I.
All right, Chaitanya, how about you?
I think as women, we just think we are human beings first and then women next. So I have all the potential, I have all the confidence. So that's, I think, the mindset with which we will go ahead. And let's all work towards a more equitable world today, tomorrow, and forever.
Absolutely. I will add to what Sudhindra mentioned is both men are women and women are equal partners, whether it's marriage, whether it's work. The men out there are giving a lot of support system to women. I'll go back with my own family example. My sister is an extremely successful artist. My brother-in-law is a very well-accomplished professional. He does not have one iota of jealousy or one iota of insecurity. I think this jealousy and insecurity factor is what is killing everything else. So I think both men and women should not be insecure or jealous, and they're equal partners in the same they should walk together and not parallel. They should not walk like a railway track, but they should walk together. With that, I close. Thank you for being my panelist for this panel discussion. Thanks to Sudhindra, Sirisha, and Chaitanya. Chaitanya, I literally reached out to you in the 11th and a half hour. So thank you so much for accepting my invite. Thanks to MyStartup TV, Sunil, Purnima, who was coordinating for this entire event. Thank you so much. And thanks once again. Happy Women's Day and happy Shivratri.
And I do believe that this is not confined only to this day, but this permeates all the other 365 days of the year. This becomes a part of our life and not confined only to this day.
Absolutely.
Thank you all. Nice knowing you.
Wishing all the best.
Women's Day.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you. Thank you, Sunil.
To stay informed about the startup ecosystem, subscribe to My Startup TV.